Another video. Here we go. There's a popular topic going around in the Afro-American sector of YouTube about Amara La Negra. She actually is a cast member of Love and Hip Hop Miami. I believe her background is Dominican, if I'm not mistaken, and she generated a lot of controversy with on the Breakfast Club with Charlemagne the Fraud. It's telling her that colorism doesn't exist. Colorism definitely exists. I myself, as an Afro-American, have been at times been disparaged and demonized by, and it mostly happens from members of my own race. When it comes to color, okay, so if you're darker, usually, and people say, well, people make fun of light-skinned people too, and that may be true, but there's not the catalog of insults and slurs for light-skinnedness is not as extensive as it is for dark-skinnedness. So one thing I will say is that colorism definitely exists, and I can I guess sympathize and relate to her and many other darker individuals who are discriminated. But I mean, look at Hinduism. The entire, well, not the entire religion, but a big part of the religion is a racist caste system based on the tone of your skin. The Dalits are the darkest Indians, untouchables, the bottom caste. So when people like Charlemagne the Fraud and other idiots try to dismiss colorism, you know, all you can do is really shake your head and point them to some sources to study, and also just to tell them to take a look around and try to walk in someone else's shoes. Now, the part that I don't like about the Amara La Negra situation, and I'm also a Miamian as well, so we have that in common. I don't know if she claims that, but because she's Dominican, but she resides in Miami. Long story short, what I don't like about her predicament is the fact that she's looking for acceptance, and this happens. And here's where colorism and this whole, in my prior videos, we've discussed Pan-Africanism, and this is yet another example as to why Pan-Africanism does not work. Pan-Africanism does not work because, again, we have individuals from our own that should be able to identify with us and to connect with us and to actually be allies and pretty much see themselves as one with us. But you don't see this from not only you don't see this from the Afro-Latino or Latina community, you also don't see this coming from Afro-Caribbeans. Now, this is not, I'm speaking in general terms, so I'm not going down to every individual or even a vast majority, because I would be willing to bet that 30% of Afro-Caribbeans and Afro-Latinos would come to bat for Afro-Americans and have solidarity with us. But that's a minority, which is why, again, I don't agree with Pan-Africanism, and I don't agree with this whole solidarity with everyone. And one thing we have to do in our community, in the Afro-American community, is stop drafting people into the black race. I remember when Tiger Woods created an uproar when he said he wasn't African American. If he doesn't want to identify with us, don't force people. Do not draft people into our race, because when we do have our Judases and those sort of individuals, part of the reason for that is because we draft everyone into our race. And I heard a saying, it goes like, just because someone's your skin folk doesn't mean they're your kin folk. Which is basically saying someone looks like you, have the same complexion, facial features, and or hair texture, doesn't necessarily mean they identify with you. I don't know how Amara La Negra feels, but I had a friend who was actually Latino, a good friend of mine. He's from the Dominican Republic, but he looks more of, I don't know if they're known as mestizos, or but he basically looks more like a Spaniard and Native American. He doesn't look African in his appearance. His name's Amir. He's a good friend of mine, and he actually said he's Dominican. He told black Dominicans that they were black, and he said they would always tell him, "No, I'm not black. I'm Dominican." So if they have that mentality, see, how could you have, as Afro Americans, how could we have solidarity with individuals like that? And that's not a rhetorical question. It's not a trick question. Is that we can't. You can't have solidarity and build a nation or have an ethnic group with people who don't want to be a part of it, who actually try to do their utmost to stay away from you. And again, I'm not demonizing all Latinos, Afro-Caribbeans, what have you, of darker complexion. I'm not, because there are dark people, depending on how your proximity to the equator. There are people, actually Aboriginals. I've seen a documentary where they actually identify with the Afro-American struggle, and Martin Luther King is a big hero also for Aboriginals. So Aboriginals have more solidarity with Afro-Americans than Africans, Afro-Latinos, and Afro-Caribbeans. From my experience, many, and again this isn't all, many of the Afro-Latinos and I guess Afro-Caribbeans actually tend to disparage. I've heard them on several occasions. Being in Miami, I've met people from Jamaica, Trinidad, from almost every St. Vincent and Grenadines. You name the Caribbean island, I've probably encountered them. I've actually visited the Caribbean on 2 different occasions, 2 different countries. But they have a lot of negative things to say about Afro-Americans, just like some of the Uncle Toms. And again, why are Afro-Americans in the state we're in? We didn't do this to ourselves. Are all our problems external? No, but a lot of them are, most of the major ones. But so are many other groups now, because what's happening with the world is they're creating a caste system again, except for, and this is a big part of this channel, Carol Quigley told us they're making a neo-feudal system with bankers at the top. So we're going back to lords and serfs, and the bankers and the corporate heads are going to be the lords, and everyone else is going to be the serf, regardless of your race. So that's where we're headed. But I'm digressing from the main point of this video. This one is about colorism. So colorism is real. If you're dark, you're on the butt end of all kind of negative and nasty jokes. You're disparaged by your own people. Sometimes you're hated by your own people. You have unfair criticism coming from your own people, because at the end of the day, anything that we've tried as African Americans as a collective or a mass of appeal, from Rosewood to Tulsa, it gets destroyed. So when we try to do legitimate business and be upright, and we do acquire a little wealth, it gets destroyed. The Nation of Islam, the Nation of Islam had assets. They had farmland, you name it, businesses. They could hire their own people. It always gets infiltrated and destroyed. It's either destroyed from the outside or from within. They can't do it overtly anymore. So, which is why they established this the whole COINTELPRO thing. This is a big digression, but I just wanted to point that out. So I'm not labeling all Afro-Latinos or Afro-Caribbeans, but the ones who are like this, stop judging Afro-Americans negatively. And I'll say that too to the Uncle Toms as well. We've done the best with what we've been given. A lot of us do succeed as individuals, and so we're not all downtrodden and living in slums, but a great many of us are. And again, poverty is the mother of crime, and a lot of us are made to perpetuate this cycle by the system and stay in the ghetto, because let's face it, if you have a caste system or a neo-feudal system, somebody has to be at the bottom. And in America, guess who's that? That's always been. You know, it's not a trick question. It's not a rhetorical question. It's been us, and it's also been the Native Americans. Oh yeah, and that's one. I think her name is M. Mitchell or M. Michelle. I like a lot of her content, and she also did one on Amara La Negra. But for you Afro-American, another thing I had to debunk is that African Americans are not Native Americans. We're not Aboriginal. We're not indigenous to the Western Hemisphere. So let's cut that out. Disrespecting the memory of our ancestors who were brought here in chains and forced to work for free. So let's stop that. Let's kill that myth.